It is going to be quite an adventure here today. We have to move the sheep from here all the way out there. Yesterday we did all of our quarterly sheep maintenance, hoof trimming, and our natural dewormer, which is something we need to do in a small confined area with physical fencing. So the sheep went back into the corral yesterday, but now all that's done, I can put them way out on pasture and implement our strip grazing, rotational grazing plan. I have pretty much exhausted all the pasture on the east side of our driveway. They were here 3 weeks ago. You see there's actually some nice grass in here, but it's not been a long enough break to put them back on there. The absolute minimum is 28 days because that's the life cycle of the parasite. However, 5 to 6 weeks is a much better waiting period. It gives you a much greater buffer zone. Out here you can see that it's grazed a lot lower. The sheep were just out here a few days ago. I just put the chickens out here this morning because most of this is knapweed and hawkweed, and I really want to get some more fertility going here so we can get some better grass for the sheep to come around to in the next rotation. What's up, Tails? What's the matter, dude? You good? Everything on this side of the driveway is exhausted. I need to start using that side of the driveway. But how do I get the sheep over there? Before I show you my plan for getting them over there, let me show you real quick what this looks like on paper. Since I do not have an aerial drone, I had to do a diagram of our property here. Basically, to orient you, we have our house and carport up here, the pigs and sheep corral here, the former winter chicken yard where our greenhouse is. It's where we overwintered the chicken. We just put our fruit trees in here, and we will soon be planting some annual vegetables in there, and then our raised garden beds are here. I initially grazed the sheep. I pulsed them through different paddocks all throughout here, but as I said earlier, this is all exhausted. So leaving the corral, we'll be traveling across this way, going across the culvert here, making the run up the fence line to paddock number 1, which is in this corner here. And we're adopting a strip grazing model this year, which is different from last year. So last year I had a laneway model. So the laneway system looked something like this last year, where we had a shelter and water in a centralized location, and then a run like that, and then paddocks off to the side of the laneway. And so I would open up, say, this paddock, so the sheep would come in here, graze, go back for their water. If it started raining or it was too hot and they needed shelter, they go here. And when this was exhausted, I would close it off and then open the next one. They would come in here and repeat all the way. But all the while they had access to this laneway and coming back for water and food. The advantage of this is it's easier. You're not moving the shelter, you're not moving the water every day. They go back, so they're getting exercise. So it's easier for me and healthier for the animals for exercise purposes. However, the disadvantage is they wear this area out. They will carve a path in the ground there, ruining that area, and also they're going to be re-exposing themselves to any parasites. You're not breaking that parasite cycle because they're going to be on that same land. If you're on a very large system, if you have 60, 80, 100 acres and you're using the system, this makes a lot more sense. However, on our small acreage in such a small area, it's not as good of an idea as doing a strip grazing model, which is they will start here in this fenced in area on day 1. On day 2, I will have this fence up, and this will be kept for back fencing. I'll open a portion of it. They will go from here to the greener grass, and I will have to move shelter and water to the new paddock. For the next day, I'll have this fencing set up, and this one will still be there. I have 3 sheep netting. I also have electric polywire that I can move around. And again, the next day, I'll just open up the fencing in the corner, and they'll move to the next paddock. I will take this fence down and move it up to here and move it up to this fence. So I'll have fencing there for the next day, and I just keep leapfrogging the fencing. I'll always have one behind them to keep them from going back, one to keep them from going forward, and then the next one set up for that next paddock. And we just keep moving them. They'll come along here, back over the culvert, all the way through here, and then by the time they get back to this side of the pasture, this will have rested for more than 30 days, hopefully 5 weeks, so we get that nice buffer in there for the parasite cycle breaking up. Plus it gives the grass a chance to grow back and get really healthy. One thing I forgot to explain in here is this gray line right here represents the 4 strands of polywire I put up, and you'll see it's like a U shape that I put up coming off of the carport, and that's because we have this drainage ditch that goes through here. It's draining from our neighbor's property up here. These guys love to spray their hayfield with 2,4-D and all kinds of chemicals. They just did an application about 2 weeks ago, so the rain that we're getting now is washing all that lovely 2,4-D right through here. So one, I don't want my sheep getting into that area, and 2, it's a little bit moist and damp. Even now that we're getting into summer and it's drying out here, it is still a little moist and damp in this area right here, so I don't want the sheep going in there and tearing up the ground. So that polywire is keeping them out of that area there. So little buddy and I are standing right on the edge of the gate for the sheep corral, and we set up some polywire going across the driveway. So the idea is we'll open the gate, the sheep will come out this way, we'll cross the driveway. Here we have some sheep netting. Then we get to this spot. I don't have any more sheep netting because it is set up for where the paddock is around this corner here. So what I did was I just ran some extra polywire I had. I only had enough for about 2 strands for the length of this. So right here we have a little bit of risk that the sheep are gonna veer off. We have our main gate closed, so they're not gonna leave the property. So I'm probably gonna position either Ashley or little buddy right here, hopefully to keep them on course here. So looking back, you can see the sheep corral right here, our chicken tractor's here. So they're gonna come along this way, over this culvert right here. And about a 300-foot run all the way back to their future new paddock. I'm going to be using pea pellets to lure the sheep out of the corral and then along this path. Every day when I've been doing a paddock shift with them, when I'm putting them on a new pasture, what I do is I bring them back to the corral, set up the new paddock, and then run them out of the corral. So I'd open the gate, I would whistle, and I would lead the way to the new paddock for them. And they would follow me out until they hit the grass and start eating. I'm hoping that that training will pay off and that they'll follow me the whole way. The challenge is gonna be when they hit the grass on the other side of the driveway. Now keep in mind, when I say grass, I mean all the weeds. Basically there's really not much grass, but when they hit that, they'll want to lower their heads and start eating instead of following me. So the pea bucket, I'll be shaking that a little bit to keep them encouraged following me. The other challenge I'm giving myself today involves Fiji and her lambs. A few weeks ago I noticed Fiji losing condition, meaning she was losing weight. Her hips were really starting to protrude and there was some concave action going in on her side, which is not good. I would condition score her around a 2, which is low. You want to be around a 3, 3.5. This is Fiji right here, the white with some of the brown splotches on her. Fiji is my oldest ewe. She is 9 years old, I believe, and she has 2 really healthy ram lambs that are still nursing from her. When I saw her starting to lose condition, I immediately increased the protein intake for all the sheep. I put them on pretty much an exclusive alfalfa diet for their hay, and then also I was supplementing them heavy with their peas, which are very high in protein. but over the last few days I've really noticed her to start to decline again. And when we did our quarterly maintenance yesterday, I did a condition score on her, and she's really like a 1.5, 1 3/4, something like that. Just below a 2, not quite a full 1, but she's not in good shape. Having the 2 ram lambs still nursing on her is just really taking a toll on her. So what I'm going to try and accomplish today also is weaning. The best case scenario for weaning is a fence line weaning, which is where you keep the mother on one side of the fence and her lambs on the other, where they can still see each other and they can smell each other and have that association. However, the lambs don't have access to the mother's milk. I still have my panels set up from yesterday's quarterly maintenance, so I have that gated off. I have this panel here, so what I can do is actually break the corral into 2 sections and keep the lambs on one side and Fiji on the other side. We also have Connie's ram lamb here. This would be the time for me to wean him off also. That way I can keep all my ram lambs together and start my second flock with them, which is something I'd have to do eventually anyway to keep them from breeding their mothers and their sisters and all that kind of stuff. This is one of Fiji's rams. That's Connie's ram. That ram lamb right there with the little blue spot on his backside is one we got from Tess as a feeder lamb. He will also hang out with the rest of the rams. And here is Fiji's second ram. Wow, what an accomplishment today. That plan worked really well with one exception. Penny was trailing behind at a safe distance behind the sheep, and then she decided to veer off. She just stepped right over that poly wire and she went walkabout. It took a little while for us to recover her, but we did get her. Other than that, moving the sheep went great. So I have Fiji on one side, the ram lambs on the other. Her two boys are these two right here, the black and white ones, and they've been spending a lot of time nuzzling and sniffing each other just like that, putting their heads together. The three of them are upset and they're under stress. They've been bleating a lot today and calling for the other flock because they can hear each other across the field. Fiji keeps calling for them, and then Connie calls, and then Connie's ram over here starts going back and forth. So it's been a little bit stressful. One of my highest priorities with my husbandry, following organic feed and grass-fed, is low stress environment. I really strive to keep these guys low stress as possible. They've been doing that a little bit too. I'm gonna have to probably reinforce this, but weaning is a stressful time for both the mother and the lambs, and then also I have the flock separated. Fiji, I think, probably has a little bit of flock separation anxiety as well. So a stressful time for all of them, but it's really, really necessary for me to do this right now for the sake of Fiji's health. I'm really concerned that if I were to not wean the boys right now off of her, that it would be detrimental to her health. Most of my sheep are pretty relaxed, but Fiji is kind of on the flighty side, so she might run as I try to get close to her. But I want you to be able to see how her conformation is really lacking there. You can see her hip bones protruding there. And yesterday when I was treating her hooves and everything, I was feeling her spine, and the spine is really pronounced through her hide. And again, I've bumped up the entire flock's protein supply just because of Fiji. I couldn't separate her out by herself and just feed her extra. But now I can, because she is by herself over here with Penny. The rest of the flock looks great. Fiji's babies look great. So everyone else is doing really well. Now that her lambs are going to wean off of her, I'm really hoping that she'll start putting her weight back on, and I can really focus on giving her a lot of attention, making sure all of her nutritional needs are met. So Penny's standing guard with this small flock, and Blue is out on the pasture with the main flock. My only regret with the way this worked out is I should have thought to keep Sage, one of our pet sheep, back here with Fiji, so she'd have another sheep companion on this side of the fence, at least with her. But the bright side is she gets the whole bucket of peas to herself now, no competition.